Welcome to our channel, where we delve into the depths of darkness, exploring the unsettling and the unknown. Tonight, we're unlocking a vault of terror, a collection of chilling tales that have haunted the dreams of children for generations. These are the top 5 terrifying child stories, each one more unsettling than the last. Turn off the lights, turn up the volume, and prepare to be scared. Because tonight we're venturing into a world where fear reigns and innocence offers no protection. Chapter 1. The Haunted Doll. Our first story takes us into the seemingly innocent world of childhood toys, where a gift from a grandmother becomes a conduit for terror. Little Emily, a sweet and cheerful 8-year-old, received a beautiful antique porcelain doll for her birthday. The doll, with its rosy cheeks, piercing blue eyes, and a velvet dress, was the envy of all her friends. Yet there was something about the doll's unnervingly lifelike gaze that sent shivers down Emily's spine. At first, the occurrences were subtle. Emily would wake in the night to find the doll's gaze fixed on her, its blue eyes glowing faintly in the darkness. She'd hear soft whispers coming from the corner where the doll rested, hushed tones that seemed to vanish as quickly as they appeared. When Emily confided in her parents, they dismissed it as an overactive imagination, a child's way of adjusting to a new toy. But the events escalated. The doll began to move, its tiny porcelain hand shifting, its head turning to follow Emily's movements. The whispers grew louder, laced with a chilling malice that sent chills down Emily's spine. Objects began to move around Emily's room, seemingly propelled by an unseen force. Doors slammed shut on their own, and Emily could feel a constant, watchful presence, as if the doll's vacant eyes were tracking her every move. One night, Emily awoke to a blood-curdling scream. She raced to her parents' room, only to find them frozen in terror, their faces pale and drawn. The source of their fear? The doll, now perched at the foot of their bed, its once innocent face twisted into a grotesque snarl. The whispers reached a fever pitch, a chorus of menacing voices that seemed to emanate from the doll itself. It was then that Emily knew with bone-chilling certainty that this was no ordinary doll. It was a vessel possessed by something dark and malevolent, and it had her and her family trapped in its terrifying game. Chapter 2. The Ghostly Playmate. Our next tale takes us deep into the heart of grief, where a young boy's longing for companionship opens a door to the spectral realm. 10-year-old Daniel had always been a solitary child, finding solace in his books and imagination. But after the sudden passing of his grandfather, his loneliness intensified. One gloomy afternoon, Daniel stumbled upon a dusty old trunk in the attic. Inside, he found a small, leather-bound journal. It belonged to his grandfather when he was a boy. The journal spoke of an imaginary friend, a mischievous spirit named Oliver. But the entries took on a darker tone. Oliver had turned demanding, possessive, even menacing. That night, Daniel felt a cold spot form beside him. He turned to see a translucent figure seated at the edge of his bed. It was a young boy, no older than Daniel himself, with mischievous eyes and a haunting smile. "Hello, Daniel," the apparition whispered, his voice a hollow echo. "My name is Oliver. Your grandfather told me all about you." At first, Daniel was both thrilled and terrified. He had a friend, a real-life ghost, just like his grandfather. But as the days turned into nights, Oliver's demeanor shifted. He became possessive of Daniel, demanding all of his attention. Daniel realized with growing horror that Oliver wasn't the friend he pretended to be. Chapter 3. The Shadow in the Closet. Our next story takes us into the heart of every child's nightmare. the lurking fear of the unknown that dwells in the shadows of their own bedroom. 8-year-old Sophie had always been afraid of the dark, but her fear intensified tenfold after her family moved into their new home, a sprawling Victorian mansion with a dark and unsettling history. Her room, a cavernous chamber with dark oak paneling and heavy velvet curtains, felt oppressive, suffocating. And then there was the closet, a massive walk-in space that seemed to swallow the light, its depths concealing an unknown terror that gnawed at the edges of Sophie's mind. It started subtly, a flicker of movement in the periphery, a fleeting glimpse of darkness that seemed to vanish when Sophie turned her head. The temperature in her room would plummet, the air growing heavy and stale. But the most terrifying thing was the shadow. Every night as Sophie lay in bed, her heart pounding in her chest, the shadow would emerge from the depths of her closet. It wasn't a defined shape, not a monstrous figure or a lurking beast. It was a void, an absence of light that took on a life of its own. It would writhe and contort, stretching across the walls, reaching for Sophie with long, shadowy fingers that seemed to pulse with an evil energy. Sophie would bury her head under the covers, her small body trembling. But she could feel the shadow's presence looming over her, its icy touch sending shivers down her spine. She told her parents about the shadow, about the coldness and the fear that gripped her every night. They tried to reassure her, telling her it was just her imagination, a trick of the light. But Sophie knew better. The shadow was real. It knew her name, her fears, her deepest vulnerabilities, and it fed off them, growing stronger with every passing night. Chapter 4. The Cursed Playground. Our journey into the heart of childhood fears now brings us to a place where innocence is corrupted and laughter turns to screams, the cursed playground. Nestled in the heart of a forgotten neighborhood, shrouded by overgrown trees and whispered rumors, lay a playground frozen in time. Rusted swings swayed gently in the windless air, the creaking of the merry-go-round a mournful symphony that echoed through the deserted park. The air hung heavy, thick with the stench of decay and the faintest hint of sulfur, as if the very ground itself was tainted. Locals whispered tales of a tragedy that had befallen the playground years ago, a darkness that had seeped into the very foundations of the park, cursing it forever. Children, drawn by an unseen force, would wander into the playground, their laughter echoing through the empty swings and slides. They'd disappear without a trace, their joyous shouts replaced by an unsettling silence that hung heavy in the air. Those who dared to venture into the cursed playground after nightfall spoke of chilling apparitions, ghostly children, their eyes hollow pits, their laughter a chilling echo of a joy long gone would beckon them closer, their spectral forms fading as quickly as they appeared. The swings would swing on their own, propelled by unseen hands, and the merry-go-round would spin wildly, its haunting melody a siren song that lured unsuspecting victims to their doom. It was said that the playground was a portal, a gateway to a realm where lost souls were trapped, forever condemned to relive their final moments. And those who dared to enter their domain risked being trapped alongside them, their souls ensnared in the cursed playground's eternal torment. Chapter 5. The Nighttime Visitor. Our final tale delves into the paralyzing terror of sleep paralysis, where a young boy becomes a prisoner in his own bed. 12-year-old Ethan had always been a sound sleeper, but lately his nights had become a living nightmare, haunted by a presence so terrifying it chilled him to the bone. It always started the same way, a feeling of heaviness, as if an invisible weight had settled on his chest. He'd try to move, to speak, but his body refused to obey. And then it would appear, a shadowy figure, its form shifting and swirling in the darkness. It had no discernible features, just two glowing red eyes that burned into Ethan's soul. The entity would glide closer, its movements fluid and silent. He could feel its icy breath on his skin. Ethan would try to scream, but his voice was trapped. As the first rays of dawn pierced through the cracks in his curtains, the entity would vanish, leaving Ethan trembling in its wake. Outro, thank you for joining us on this journey into the heart of childhood fears. We've explored the shadows of the human psyche, the places where terror takes root and nightmares come to life. But remember, these stories are just that, stories. If you enjoyed this descent into darkness, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more spine-chilling stories from the abyss. And be sure to share your own encounters with the unknown in the comments below. Until next time, sleep tight, if you dare.